All right, I think we are live and ready to go, I believe. We'll double check this, but yeah, so pretty much we're going to be given just a recap of the first round of the draft here. I think we have someone in here. We'll see, but we're just going to start with Cam Ward. We're going to start with Cam Ward. Hopefully this goes. We're going to wait a few seconds to get this in here. And then we're going to go. So give me 2 seconds. We're going to start with Cam Ward. Hopefully the. All right, I think we're live officially. Apologies for trying to make this work. Pick by pick, we're going to do this leading up to the second round kickoff, whatever you want to call it. Cam Ward pretty much want to 30-second snippets of every single player. Not that you missed the draft last night, because you definitely didn't. But, just keeping everybody on their toes going into day two. So, I mean, Ward, I think, is a great storyline that I wish would have got more attention. I know Shedeur Sanders kind of stole the show for not even being drafted. Cam Ward's a guy I've grown to like a lot more as the draft process went on. From his time at Washington State, from his time at being a zero-star recruit out of high school. Kind of has a pro comp similar to a Jordan Love, can sling it all over the field. One of the strongest arms, if not the strongest, in the draft. So it makes sense. Tennessee goes and gets their guy. I think they got a potential Pro Bowler. We'll see what his elite ceiling is, but the Titans needed to go make their move. So they got him right away. And he's going to be starting right away. So curious to see what Cam Ward does in that Brian Callahan-led offense. Moving down to two. Obviously the big trade, shocker. We got Travis Hunter. But not going to Cleveland. Going back down to Florida from his roots, where he's from. Mixed opinions on this one because we have a potential Hall of Famer that a lot of people are saying that the Browns totally passed up and got a haul for. Did they get a lot? Yes. Did they still get a good defensive player that we'll get to in a little bit? Yes. Would I have made the decision? No, I wouldn't. And we got some comments here saying, hope Travis Hunter likes losing. I mean, he was going to a losing organization either way. You talk about two of the most losing organizations in this century. It's the Browns and the Jags. So, yeah, I think he's going to excel there. We'll see if he has the condition to play both ways. But he's going to be a threat either way and a dynamic playmaker. So you do what you got to do as a new GM to go get your guy. Abdul Carter goes 3. My favorite guy in the draft, I think the best player in the draft for me, the most superstar potential in the draft, maybe besides Travis Hunter, is Abdul Carter. You go and get a pass rusher that is going to be locked in, ready to play right away. Might even take Lawrence Taylor's number, unretired, from the archives. That's how good this guy potentially might be and how good he was at Penn State and how raw he still is. If you watched any Big Ten football this year, couldn't take your eyes off. Could not take my eyes off, Abdul Carter, getting a lot of Michael Parsons comparisons, the way he looks, the number he wore, switching from linebacker to edge rusher. He's really only been an edge rusher for a little bit of time now. Has a crazy high ceiling. The ceiling that Michael Parsons kind of had his rookie year. So I think it's a can't-miss move. Nothing more to say about Abdul Carter than I expect him to be a Pro Bowler. Not that the Pro Bowl means, anything right now, but expect him to be Pro Bowler within 2 years at least. I think that's a realistic expectation, and that's the expectation they want. Now, shorthands, Will Campbell goes 4th. again, getting a lot of flack for, like, he's had a crazy journey too, as far as like wasn't a was kind of a developmental guy. Has really short arms, which got a lot of flack in the pre-draft process. But I mean, we see the passion that this guy has when he goes on stage and he's willing to protect Drake May. Has really good instincts, has really good agility. So, kind of the ideal guy they wanted to get there. Kind of him and Banks, both good fits for New England. I think you had to go get the guy, despite his short little stubby arms. We go to fifth, Mason Graham. Probably didn't expect it all to be a Cleveland Brown, considering his. I mean, went to Michigan, was kind of trashing the whole Jack Sawyer incident. But he's a really good player, and there's a reason that his size and being able to fight through a lot of double teams, wins power rushing, really good at running line stunts. You know what I mean? So the Browns have the strength in the defensive line, obviously with Myles Garrett, and now in their 4-3, Graham, he's going to have an impact on the running and the passing game. So you do trade down and probably not get the guy that's like as elite superstar potential as a Travis Hunter, but he reads the quarterback really well. He comes from a pedigree program, played in a lot of big times games back in 2023 when they won the national title. This guy was a big reason why. Another guy that we'll get to is another reason why. But I don't see a world where he's not very effective either. Same goes for the next guy. Talking about fantasy, we're going Ashton Jeanty. We're going Ashton Jeanty at 6 for the Raiders. And not to say I called it, but I'm going to freaking take my victory lap. Not because I knew anything, but because the Raiders GM and Pete Carroll pretty much leaked this last week that they were going to be taking Ashton Jeanty at 6 if he was available. Insane rushing yards, insane broken tackles. Can catch the ball in stride as well. So Ashton Jeanty is just kind of a dude that, cures for fantasy-wise if he could get to like that 1,500-yard mark. One of the last, I guess you want to call him gold standard blue chip guys in this draft. And then Pete Carroll gets his guy with the great running power that he had with Marshawn Lynch. Just hope that they don't get on the 1 yard line. And, maybe he could redeem himself and hand it to Jeanty. I always butcher this guy's name. Going next down, the offensive tackle for Missouri, Ahmed Mabou. Big dude. Tested really well at the combine too. Has the skill set to really kind of develop into a good pass blocker. And he's quick. He's quick to handle the speed off the edge of the outside. So 1 year after they selected a left tackle last year, so the Jets are just shoring up their offensive line with plug and play guys. So Aaron Glenn, strong offensive running guy. I like the move. Number 2 ranked tackle as well. So I think he's a smart value player. You get probably the best player at that moment on the board. And the Panthers going to the next one, Ted. They got Ted McMillan, who I personally didn't love. I wasn't in love with immediately right away. He's like a big body guy. Obviously, I think lacked a little bit of physicality. If you watch that Colorado game, they kind of put him in a blender, and he got a little bit frustrated. So newsflash, you're going to the Panthers, so you're going to have frustrating games, and you're not going to be able to be centered around the offense. How is he going to handle a lot of that? He's not like a super explosive guy, but just go look at his box score if you want to take a chuckle at some of the things that he was doing in at Arizona. So Panthers look to rebuild, dominate 50-50 balls, so I think he'll fit in fine right there as a true X receiver. Kelvin Banks was next for the Saints. I think the Saints, this was a pick where a lot of people thought Shedeur could go here. A lot of people thought he could maybe go wide receiver here. They decided not to pick up the 5th-year option on, who was it, their other guy, Penning. So this is a spot they needed. Back in his college position days, they got a versatile coach that he's with. Banks gives up a lot of ground sometimes for what I've seen, but he can dig, you know what I mean? He's like I saw the comp of Rashawn Slater. I think that's a little bit of his max potential, but the Saints need a lot of help, and he started a lot of games at Texas, which you love to see from the offensive line. Colson Loveland, Michigan guy. A lot of people wanted this to be Tyler Warren, and it wasn't. It was Colson Loveland. So I think Ben Johnson goes and gets his guy. Maybe he's going to try and replicate Sam Laporta 2 years ago. Loveland is a guy, I think, that's a better route runner, more versatile, can actually pass block a lot better than people think, too. He's not the big, bruising, imposing guy that a Tyler Warren is. But Colson Loveland gets the job done. I think it's a fine pick. People might want to say he reached. He wasn't going to slide past, I'd say, pick 16. Not that they were going to take him, but like someone trading up to maybe like the Bengals at 17 to get him. So I'm fine with Colson Loveland. I think the Caleb Williams is going to have a toolbox of like Christmas toys to play with, and the offense should have no excuses not to be great. Mykel Williams, Georgia goes next. Let's see, we're moving down the list here. Again, Robert Saleh coming back, goes with his defensive guy. Powerful, lengthy pass rusher from a big pedigree like Georgia. So I have no problem with it. A lot of people didn't like this pick. But he had a big ankle injury that he was playing with through the entire 2024 season, pretty much. So I think he showed a lot of toughness, showed a lot of resiliency. And again, Robert Saleh is the defensive coordinator kind of guy. He was targeting a guy to like buffer up that defense with Bosa, with them running that 4-3. It's going to be Mykel Williams. Tyler Booker, on the other hand, wasn't my favorite pick. Probably one of my least favorite picks, honestly, for the Cowboys. Just kind of a statue that's a good leader. Not athletic, though. Not really the most athletic guy. I think he could have been a late first round, maybe a second round guy. But, the Cowboys have pedigree and they have, prestige. They got a history of selecting great offensive linemen. Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, who they need to replace. So I do trust them in that aspect when selecting Tyler Booker. Listen, he's going to need to develop a little bit into it, but he's again kind of not the most athletic guy, which worries me a little bit. So I thought that was one of the more of the reaches of the first round. Moving on to Kenneth Grant. The big thing here is he's a run stopper. He's the run stopper. He's the plug. Miami Dolphins. That's what they needed. That's what they wanted to. That's what they struggled with last year. So Christian Wilkins left in free agency. So you pick up Kenneth Grant, who played alongside Mason Graham at Michigan, was part of that elite defensive front, ferocious, that led them to the national title in 2023. So you get that big nose tackle build. Kenneth Grant, I think, is a solid pick, especially for like what he wants to do, what the Dolphins want to do in the run game. Tyler Warren's next. Again, Tyler Warren, probably the consensus 101 as far as tight ends. I think it was a lot closer with Loveland than people think. You bring in a guy who's going to be really exciting. I think hopefully can take some of the short yardage situations away from Anthony Richardson. And the Colts had no tight end last year. So they needed to take someone. I think it's a dream, him falling to them at 14. I think it's the perfect scenario for Tyler Warren. Perfect scenario for the Colts. So I'm really, he's one of my more exciting players that I'm, wanting to see flourish at the NFL level. We don't know anything about the Colts quarterback situation, but we know Tyler Warren's going to be like used in a variety of ways. So that's always like a fun Swiss Army knife player. Jalen Walker, I love him. I like him. I like him a lot. He's a front seven guy. He's a hybrid guy. I think that's why the Falcons were so bad they couldn't even sneeze on a quarterback last year. They couldn't even get close to anyone. You bring in a guy, two guys really in this draft that can get up to the quarterback. So they had a horrible pressure rate last year. Comes from Georgia. He's a speed rusher too. Or he has proved that he can be a speed rusher. Not so much as James Pierce that they took at 26. But I like Jalen Walker a lot. I think it's just going to be a good, solid, all-around player that can play right away for the Falcons. Again, moving on to, if you like this kind of stuff, guys, make sure you follow us on TikTok as well. We got all the more in-depth stuff on TikTok and Twitter, and check out our app as well. That's going to be coming out this fall. You're going to want to, can't miss. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle. So this is the Cardinals. Not a lot of this isn't like a flat. This is the most vanilla kind of pick, I guess. I don't take a swig here. I think he has high upside, as a pass rusher. Can win in a lot of different ways. they're still trying to build something around, the different scheme that Jonathan Gannon's bringing over there. So I think Walter Nolan is going to help that, and he's got a good first step as well. So can't complain about him. Shamar Stewart, on the other hand, edge rusher from Texas A&M, is super raw. You're going to look at the tape in the box score. He's a guy who got drafted based on his ability and what people think he could do, not necessarily what he put on tape. Because he only had like 4 sacks in 3 seasons, so that's kind of the big red flag there for Shamar Stewart. Also walked out to a Drake song, so I mean that's got to be a red flag as well. We'll see what the Trey Hendrickson contract situation is. Sam Hubbard, defensive end, as well, retired, so I mean they needed to do what they had to do there for the edge rushers. I think he was one of the better ones at that position. I think they might have been able to go tight end if Tyler Warren was there, but I have no problem with that either. Gray Zabel, fan favorite, started, a ton of games, which is one of my biggest things I love, especially at the tackle position. I don't care if it is at the FCS level. It's from a program that produces high-level people in the NFL all the time. So the Seahawks are going to love this guy. Tons of experience, and he completely bullied people in the Senior Bowl, which is kind of what put him on the map all the way to a first-round draft pick, because mid-December, this guy was nowhere near the first round. So really excited to see him in a kind of Clint Kubiak scheme. I think a lot of people gave this an A. I'm excited to see him. Speaking of a surprising guy, Emeka Egbuka, great player, one of my favorite players in the draft, just a straight-up professional, as far as, I know he's going to succeed at the next level. He does everything correct. He can play on the outside, inside. I think he's going to play in the slot. He's going to take Jalen McMillan's position, but they just got a lot of things going on there now in Tampa. I mean, they got Evans, Godwin, McMillan, they got Egbuka, they got Kate Otten, Rashad White, Bucky Irving. Tons of options for Baker Mayfield. I was just a little bit surprised, I guess, that they really didn't need him as much, but if you are looking 3-4 years down the road, if you think Egbuka is going to be the, Amon-Ra St. Brown that a lot of people want him to be, you go get him in the first round, obviously. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm excited to see how he plays in that offense with Baker Mayfield. Jahdae Barron, cornerback from Texas. Again, speaking of learning from the best, he's going to be playing opposite side Pat Surtain, so the ultimate technician. And he's got really good instincts from what I've read. I haven't watched too much of his tape. Really good instincts. Is going to be learning from the best, so I'm totally fine with that move too at quarterback for the Broncos. Steelers, on the other hand, a lot of people thought this was going to be Shedeur Sanders. I'm glad it wasn't. They take defensive tackle Derek Herman from Oregon. Again, Oregon, elite defense last year. Despite the need of quarterback that they thought they needed. I trust the Steelers in the draft pick. I trust them taking people on the defensive line with good technique, and he's going to be, Cameron Hayward getting up there, T.J. Watt getting up there. So he's quick, he's strong, he's going to be able to play up front with his long arms and be effective for the Steelers. Marvin Hampton's going to be a fan favorite for the fantasy draft. I think it was a little bit of a reach, honestly. I think they had some other names that they could have addressed. Their wide receiver group is still just completely depleted. Joey Bosa leaves. I think they could have went pass rusher here. So I like Hampton as an all-around, all-purpose, back. A lot of the, many years he is the first running back taken off the board. So Jim Harbaugh, we know how much he loves his running backs. Him and Najee Harris. I think Hampton is going to be, a guy that's going to flourish in this offense. Not necessarily love the value, but love the player, love the scheme that he's going to be in. So a more exciting guy I'm seeing for a fantasy perspective. Matthew Golden is too. I think if he could polish up maybe a little bit of his route running, he's got the speed to be someone like a Garrett Wilson, literally. Can take the top off. He was the guy, if you watched any of the college football playoff, that made that entire offense go. It wasn't Isaiah Bond, it was Matthew Golden. First time the Packers have taken a wide receiver since 2002 in the first round. So fan favorite, I think a lot of people loved it too. I like the pick. I thought he could go as early as 12 to the Cowboys, I've been hearing. So I think, finding a home in Green Bay is going to be good for Matthew Golden. Donovan Jackson started all 30 games at left guard, and then moved to tackle for Ohio State. So very versatile. This guy was a big reason why they won the national title. Let's be honest. He's quick, he's athletic, and he's good at pass protection. So Love this for Donovan Jackson. They can move him around a lot. They thought they were going to go defense here. They ended up going Donovan Jackson. Great program, too. So, solid pick there. I think one of the better late-round picks in the 20s for the Vikings. Speaking of good late-round picks, this ain't it for me. This ain't it for me. Was not a Jackson Dart guy before, not one after. Don't think he's a first-round guy. I get you have to go up and get your guy. They really didn't give up as much as people think they did. I just think Brian Daboll wanted to get this guy. He is all over the place with, this quarterback room is all over the place. Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson. I don't think Daboll's even going to be there in 2 years. So they get a guy who's, is good athletically, more so than Shedeur Sanders, is, well liked by his teammates, but still a little bit stunned that they moved up and got him. James Pierce. I like the pick. A lot of people don't like this pick. He's an athletic freak. Just bolsters that edge argument that I was saying earlier for the Falcons that they needed. And listen, James Pierce ran that sub 4.4. I don't know. He flew. He was like a combine warrior. So I'm excited to see James Pierce. Between him and Jalen Walker, one of those guys I think maybe won't be a star, but will be a big staple of that Falcons defense. Malachi Starks is one of my favorite players. I think Kyle Hampton's going to be able to play deep now, and he's going to be more aggressive. He comes from Georgia, 3-year starter at Georgia. This guy could have went as high as mid-teens for me. I love Malachi Starks. I think it was a great pick by the Ravens. Tyleik Williams, I think, was a little bit of a reach. He's just a stonewall beefcake that just sits there, can really stop the run. Again, kind of a one-trick pony a little bit, but the guys seem to love him a lot. I think he was just maybe a little bit early for the D tackle, which is a very deep position, but the Lions wanted to get who they got, so I don't have a big problem with it. I think it was one of the bigger reaches, though, in the first round. And then as far as Laramie Tunsil coming over, now Washington gets Josh Connerly. Quickness, really didn't watch him too much. But I think he'll be able to fit in there, especially what they came from 2 years ago with Sam Howell. They needed to bolster the offensive line. Good at sealing the edge, and he's a left tackle at Oregon, one of the best programs in the country. So, a lot of his physicality I think was in question. So that's going to be the biggest thing for him. Again, not a guy I thought would go in the first round. And then we're wrapping up here with some, couple of the better GMs in the league. One of the fastest guys in the league. I think he ran the fastest 40 time. Maxwell Hairston. So automatically you see the athleticism. He's a little bit undersized for a corner, so press might be a little bit of a challenge. But he's smooth, changes directions. Obviously, the Bills were all in on this guy, and he's going to be probably a slot corner. But he's so quick and so fast that you like putting him, to run with some of the outside receivers too if he needs to. So, major asset there. Jahad Campbell is probably the steal of the draft. Eagles were actually going to trade up to 22 and take this guy. Again, arguably the number one linebacker in the draft, and Harry Roseman does it again. Being patient, letting good players fall to you, and the Chiefs kind of did the same with Josh Simmons. You know what I mean? I think if he didn't get injured last year, came from San Diego State, excelled at Ohio State, he would have been in those conversations early on with Will Campbell at 4. I think he could have been a top 10 pick as well. So that's the first round, guys. Super quick, super easy. We're going to get through it. We'll put this live on our YouTube as well. We'll be back throughout the weekend. I think we get the second round starting here soon. Second round's going to be starting here. So obviously, biggest takeaways are Shedeur Sanders. He's probably going to dominate the headlines until he gets drafted. Even when he gets drafted, I think that cameras are just going to be following him nonstop. Which is fine. We eat that up as the media, clearly. Jalen Milroe is an exciting guy that I'm looking forward to seeing as well. Where he's going to end up, I think maybe Vegas, maybe New Orleans. I think a lot of those guys within the first pick 32 to 40, it's going to be really interesting to see where they go. Those are the big two names. TreVeyon Henderson, I think, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson. There's a lot of running backs. There's going to be the slew of running backs that are going to go off the board right away. So that's going to be really exciting to watch as well. A lot of good stuff here. A lot of good players still in round 2. Because there are a lot of superstars still found in round 2. So it's going to be curious. Round 2, round 3 tonight, and then the later drafts tomorrow. But I know Green Bay's kind of killing it right now. 200 people turning out for the draft, which is awesome to see. So let me know what you all think of the draft. We'll be back.